Alright, this is a mud fossil head, and it was found in rural Kentucky by Arlie Caudle, and Jim Burchell and myself did a lot of research on this. And it was CAT scanned, and as you can see, there's a round fracture here in the skull, and then there's also a knife blade hole in the top, sword or knife, whatever. Now, this is apparently some form of a cap, and these are the little flutes of the cap. And this over here, you can actually slide a piece of paper up under the flap of the cap. Now, I'm going to show you the nose, the different ferrous oxides, the FeO3s and FeO2s, which are the bone black and the regular blood that gushes out of your skin. And this is the kind of blood that's called ferritins, and it's from the interior of the bones, the marrow. And that has a different chemical orientation. It turns black, whereas the red turns red or rusty. And in the mud fossils, what happens is in mud, in wet muds, there's electric currents, actually electricity. And the electricity causes the silicon in your skin, which is dense in your skin, a lot of silicon, 50 times more in your skin. What happens is that silicon gets attached to the water molecules in the wet mud, and it attaches to the silicon and it becomes SiO2, which is exactly what you're looking at here. And that is silicon dioxide, which is sand and feldspar. Now, look at what you're seeing here. You're actually seeing the feldspar, the grains of feldspar, and that will erode off of there as sand. That's literally what it is, sand. And they call it sandstone. This they call mudstone after the sand, which is the silicon, erodes off the top. And I have spectral analysis that shows that that's exactly what it is. It starts off with the silicon on the outside. That erodes away. You end up with the fleshy stuff underneath, which is the mudstone. And it's the clays and the mudstone. And then after that, you get into the connective tissues and bones. And in mud fossils, they turn into limestone. All right, they turn into the exact same thing that clamshells turn into, CaCO3. But they're marine limestone, and this is what's called porphyritic limestone, and it has all kinds of fibers and pencrysts and all these little crystals in there that do not exist in a volcanic basalt. These are porphyritic limestone basalts. They just don't know how to work with it because it's life and they just can't understand it. Now, let's look at this carefully. This is the fracture in his head. You can see it very, very, very clearly. And if you look in here carefully at that actual fracture, you can see there's no question what it is. Anyway, it's in the CAT scan. It shows up very clear in the CAT scan. Now, if you look at his nose, you can see the articulation of his nose and the fleshy sort of stuff pushed away, which nobody's going to carve that. Now, the thing I want you to look at, though, and this is the thing that I found extremely interesting, is the layers. You see that? You see this here? You see that? It almost looks like somebody layer on top of each other. And a couple of things that I've seen in nature, I thought, that's impossible. They can't be layered like that. It doesn't make any sense. Well, it is now, and there's things that are very, very difficult to explain. But they're only explained by the fact that the layering is acceptable. Now, look at the eyes. The eyes have a different texture in the actual eye, and within the iris it changes. Now, that's just what we got here, and that's the head. Alright, now there's always a smoking gun, and this is it. This is a gigantic foot And that was the foot there, and the toes and so forth would come out this way. They've eroded away. All this red is fleshy erosion, which is the SiO2 with ferrous oxides in it, the red ferrous oxides. This is the tendinous fibers that go right up and surround your leg. This is obviously that's articulations of the tendons, and then it comes up to the muscular part, and it transitions into the muscle, and that's where the bone comes up at the top. And look, this is what I want you to see, is look at you see that? You see those stripes? That is what I always discounted as that can't be, that's flesh, but it is. And the reason this is happening, apparently, is that as the water, this is all products of being soaked, and this is from the Great Flood. This guy died, drowned, standing up in the mud, stuck in the mud. His foot is just in the mud a little bit, and it probably washed off as it eroded back into the ground or whatever happened with the mud. All these guys, I call them mud fossils, they were stuck in the mud and they drowned. And as a result, the tendons are sticking up as plateaus and so forth all around the world. And that's what we're seeing. They're not natural structures of just globular, stony sort of things that just laying around on the earth. They were creatures, and that is what it is. And I'm sorry to tell you, but that's a fact. Alright, I dismissed the Sphinx for that same reason long ago, because of these blocky looking things. But see, they're offset, first of all. Secondly, that is natural. And you see his eyes? Those are a different substance. You can see, looking from a different angle, they are actually a different material. And you see that? That's his nasal cavity. Nobody went inside and put a hole up inside there and then covered it up. Napoleon shot his nose off, but that was his nasal cavity. And this, you see these little pocky marks there? The only thing that's missing off of his face is the kaolin clays, which are in the skin, and those are the things that erode away. And I will show you this right here, which is a fingertip. And you see these little holes? The same sort of holes are in here. They call it areolar tissue. And the only thing that's missing over this fingertip, this is a giant human fingertip, the only thing that's missing over this is the skin as well. And that's the only thing he's missing there. And I'll show you something else in the microscope that hopefully you'll see. Now, and I'm going to show you another shot of the Sphinx too. Hold on a second. Alright, you see that hole right there and this hole right here? That is exactly where the articulation of the veins and arteries run up through into your head. And those are the things that blow out, right then. That's what it looks like to me, is that's what blew out of there. And you see where it's running right up the side, up by his ear? That's exactly what blew out of there. And that's what happens is when the body decompresses, compression is from the gases off inside of your contained body, it blows out of the least restricted areas, and they're closest to the skin, and the arteries are one of the things that blow out because they don't have any clamps. So that's what I'm saying. It looks like it to me. That's all I can tell you. Alright, look very careful at the details you're seeing here. The eyes, look at that. That is a different material, and the iris of the eyes are also a different material than the surrounding part of the eye. All the little holes, all the little tiny holes around there, that is the areolar tissue. It's a bunch of tiny little holes, and almost like plaster over the top of them is kaolin clays. And that is what erodes away. Kaolin clays are very extremely fine a clay, and it's so fine they make fine china out of it. Now, you saw what you're looking at right there. Now look at this. This is in my microscope. And that is the picture. Hold on, let me see if I can clean this up a little bit. That is the picture of a mud fossil bone. And you can see the same, if you can see that, the same, let me see if I can get a different shot of it so you can see all the holes. Anyway, it's the identical same structure as that, and now I'm going to come down and show it to you in it's very, very, let's see if I can come in a little clearer on that. You can see that all right. Now you can see all the little bone minerals in there and all those little tiny pock marks. That is what's on your body, and then on top of that is your skin. Alright, this is the kaolin clays that covers the skin. That's the coating of the skin, which is the soft, nice little softy stuff that you have on your skin, makes it nice and luxurious. That is the kaolin clay, and it is so fine it's used for fine china, as a matter of fact. And all the clays come from the fleshy part of your body, and the limestones come from the structural part, the bones and tendons and so forth, connective tissues. Alright, this is what happens. Clay is the mud. Mud is clay. Is the muds. And then when it's completely clay, that's all it is your skin and flesh. As you go up away from the clay towards the calcium, the limestone, CaCO3, which is your structural part of your body, you get into the part where there's some limestone and some clay and some limestone and some clay and then more limestone and clay, and by the time you're done you're at 100% limestone. And there's two ways it can happen. One of them is inside your tendons. They are literally limestone, CaCO3. That's exactly what they are. Now there is some minerals in there with them, magnesium and other types of minerals, but primarily it's limestone. Now and that is what happens, is the same stuff is in marine limestone, which is the structural components of shells and so forth, clam shells. That is marine limestone, but it is CaCO3. It's the exact same stuff. However, it doesn't have the blood metals that are contained in the creature limestones, which are the porphyritic limestones. Totally different limestone. Absolutely totally different. Alright, this is a Facebook group, Mud Fossils, A New Science, and it explains the chemistry, it explains all of the different fossil formations, it explains all kinds of things. And it just goes on and on and on and on. I get these things over and over daily, many posts, and it's very, very, very interesting. So if you're interested in how reality is, come to Mud Fossils, A New Science, and also to this place here, which is the Mud Fossil University. And on the Mud Fossil University, it's on YouTube. There's no charge. It's videos. You go on at your own pace, and if you want to argue about them, that's fine. You know, there's no charge, there's no credit, and there's no refunds. All right. So, but this is reality, and they missed everything because they missed the fact that life is the source of all matter. It's not anything to do with globbing dust molecules that are all dead and it turns into just dead rock that we're living on. It's not anything to do with that. We are on life, and life is everywhere.